Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Nyer, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC. I'll be your facilitator for today's webinar. For those of you who are not familiar, the Virginia SBDC is the largest and most effective provider of customized counseling and education for small businesses in Virginia. Most of our services are offered locally in 27 locations throughout the Commonwealth. Today's webinar is one of our educational offerings and is part of our ongoing webinar series, Google and Beyond, Marketing and Managing on the Web. Today's topic is Pinning for Profit and Publicity with Purpose, Pinterest for Small Business. All of our Google and Beyond webinars are presented by Ray Sidney Smith, a web and mobile strategist, author of Solo Mo Success, Social Media, Local and Web Small Business Marketing Strategy Explained, and president of W3 Consulting. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type those into the question window and Ray will do his best to answer them. Without further ado, here's Ray Sidney Smith.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to the Virginia SBDC for having me here on the Google and Beyond Marketing and Managing on the Web webinar series. And it seems like my system, there we go. All right, a couple of housekeeping items. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask. So feel free to jump in and ask questions in the question panel, as Tracy said, and go ahead and feel free to ask those questions now. Afterward, I'll have my email address on the final slide, and you can always tweet at me at W3 Consulting, hashtag it Beyond Google, and I'll be happy to answer questions there on Twitter. Also, follow at Virginia SBDC. They'll put out notices of future webinars and other information that's pertinent to you all in the Commonwealth. So just keep in touch with them through Twitter. All right, today's agenda is pretty in depth, so we have a lot to cover in a short amount of time. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Pinterest, the basics of what is Pinterest and how it operates. I'm going to go into some of the demographics that are associated with it, and then I'm going to immediately jump into setting up your Pinterest business profile, which is requisite for you being able to do a whole bunch of things on Pinterest that are important. We're going to talk about creating your first board and your first boards and pins. I'll walk you through some of that, and then we'll dive into Pinterest marketing strategy. What is the real strategy for being able to make inroads into Pinterest as a social platform? We'll talk a little bit about advertising. I'm just going to skim over the details of advertising, that if you have a budget for being able to advertise on Pinterest, how would you do that? We'll talk about some of the tools you can use for taking advantage of Pinterest, saving some time and energy in the process of being able to build up your Pinterest community. And then we'll leave a little bit of time at the end for question and answer. And I'll be happy to stay as long as we need to for any other questions that you have. So let's get started. Pinterest has currently 200 to 250, I've seen conflicting information about here, but I think they have about 200 to 250 million daily active users on the network. And Pinterest is then, what it makes for it is the fourth most popular social network among US adults. That was a shock to me. I casually use Pinterest, but I'm not one of the more in-depth Pinterest users. But we have a lot of clients who are heavily invested in the platform, and I just didn't realize that Pinterest was as popular as it is. But it's the fourth most popular social network. With actually, for those of you who are watching, so that you know, Google Plus will be sunsetted. That means they'll be shut down on the consumer side as of August of 2019. So we have some time, but if you have been active on Google Plus, there will be one less social network on the consumer side. It will still stay within G Suite or the enterprise version, the business side of Google, but it will be going away for regular consumers. It's sad to say, but that's what it is, which potentially will spur more people to go to Pinterest and to the other social networks. So some of that might play to Pinterest's advantage, because Pinterest is a card style visual framework. Google Plus was a card style visual framework. And so you have that natural segue for some people. Pinterest is made up demographically of educated. 68% of Pinteresters or pinners are have some college to more than a college degree, advanced degrees. They have above average income. 35% of pinners have or make greater than 75,000 per year, and I think some 20-something% of them make over 100,000 per year in household income. So you're talking about a fairly upper middle income to affluent population that are pinners, and 34% are ranked as suburban. That number always bothers me, though, because when we look at the statistics behind Pinterest, what we recognize is that, yes, 34% are suburban, but 30% are urban and 25% are rural, or give or take, right? Because these numbers obviously shift over time. That means that roughly a third, and a third are suburban, urban, and rural, meaning that Pinterest is very widely adopted by all different kinds of communities. So don't count Pinterest out if you live in an urban environment, because there are a lot of urban pinners. Pinterest is also a predominantly female population, but it turns out that males are one of the fastest growing users to sign up onto the platform. And there are a whole wide variety of niche groups of pinners that are interested in content on Pinterest that are male and that are kind of male interest focused, right? So don't discount the fact that your male population isn't there just because Pinterest is considered the kind of female social network. There are males on the platform, and you might find that yours is on there. So just as we're talking about kind of makeup, also, the U.S. is half of the Pinterest population. The other half is international, obviously, and the largest of those countries, if you'd like to know, are Brazil, India, then Russia. So if you have an audience that potentially is in one of those countries, those are the big three dominant ones that are out there. Finally, the last item that I wanted to talk about on screen was that there are roughly 2 million pins, 2.5 million pins that are pinned onto Pinterest per day, and currently ranking at about 100 billion pins across the entire network. Pinterest drives 7.5% of all referral traffic. I have to repeat myself. Pinterest drives 7.5% of the internet's referral traffic to websites. That is a huge number when you think about this social network driving web traffic. When we also think about Pinterest, remember that, or maybe you didn't know this, but now you do, 93% of pinners, when they go to Pinterest, are using Pinterest to find and make purchase decisions. So those 200 million pins per day are what are driving purchase decisions, and 87% of those 93% searching on Pinterest will then buy something. Okay, let me repeat that. 87% of the 93% of people using Pinterest will then ultimately buy something from the decision-making process that they have been using through their interaction with Pinterest. Now, Pinterest ends up being about $50 per order. They drive about, on average, a $50 per order average. And so what we know about pinners are that they are planners, and I'll come back to this again. And that means they plan 2 times earlier than other social platform users in the process of the purchase cycle, in that customer journey. So think about how those 200 million pins, what pins that you're putting onto Pinterest are driving traffic for your business. Okay. Let's talk about what Pinterest is at its core. Pinterest defines itself as a tool for collecting and organizing things you love. So in essence, it's a cataloging system that allows people to catalog what they want to do, and then they go do that out in the real world, whether that be purchase something, but also go do something. You know, people think about weddings and events and many other kinds of things, but it could be as simple as, laying out a garden, or they're planning on doing some arts and crafts, or they're interested in photography, or they're interested in starting a new website. And so they can collect and organize the various pins that are on Pinterest in the process of being able to prepare for that execution or that implementation of that thing. Pinterest is made up of pins, boards, and pins and boards. And pins are of varying different ratio sizes, but I'm just going to give you 3 general rubrics that you can use so that you don't have to get too mired in the details here. And as I'll talk about later in some of the tools that are out there, the tools will auto-generate the sizes for you, so you don't really have to worry about this. But if you are just preparing images from Photoshop or some other tool, or you're sourcing images, just remember that the pins should be 600 by 600 pixels. That's the 600 squared. They should be 600 by 900 pixels, meaning that they are, three times as long as they are, or that is, a third more long than they are wide. So 600 by 900 or 600 by 1260 pixels, meaning that's really long. And that's typically for an infographic where you are showing various pieces of information or some kind of story where you have step 1 or part 1 of the story, part 2 of the story, and so on and so forth, making its way down. But that's the best way to display on Pinterest pins that are square, 600 by 600, which also matches up to Instagram very neatly, 600 by 900 or the 600 by 1260. You then have boards and group boards. A board is where pins go. So pins go on a board, and so they're a collection of pins. Group boards, the only difference between a board and a group board is that someone has invited you to collaborate to pin to their board. So someone owns the board, and then they can invite you to collaborate on that board. So there's really nothing fundamentally different about a board and a group board other than the number of collaborators. And finally, there are video pins. Video pins are what they sound like. They're a video, and they are put onto a board. So that's what it is. Pins and video pins, as well as boards, contain also text. So you can place a description that is complementing the visuals on the board, and we'll talk about that once we hop into the platform. But that's it. That's what Pinterest is. It's a social network for collecting and organizing those things. You have pins, boards, group boards, and video pins, and that combination together gives you all the faculties for what Pinterest can do. All right, so I'm going to hop out into Pinterest, and we're going to go ahead and look at how to set up a business profile and a series of boards so you're kind of on the same page with me. Here, what we're going to do is we're just going to use your email address for your business, and and we're going to just put in a random email address. For purposes of this, don't email me at this email address. It's just used for the demo purposes. And we're going to create a password, and then we're just going to fake an age and then click continue. So you go to Pinterest.com. It's going to show this page, and it's going to ask you to enter an email address, a password, and an age. At that point, you are then given the opportunity to also sign up through Facebook or Google, and you can do that through single sign-on through Facebook and Google. But I would recommend that you sign up first with your own email password, and then you can go ahead and connect to Facebook or Google to log in at a later time. All right, so at this point, it gives us a 4-step modal for setting up ourselves in the Pinterest way. And so it's going to ask us for our gender, it's going to ask us for our country and language of that we use, and then it's going to ask us to pick 5 interests. I'm just going to select the top 5 so that we can move along, but you would pick the appropriate interests to your business. What are the themes that are associated with your business that you want to go ahead and connect? At that point, it's going to ask you to go ahead and implement what's called the browser button, and you want to do this. You want to go ahead and get it now, and what that's going to do is it's going to actually download to your system and install this Chrome plugin, okay, the save button for Chrome plugin. I can't do it now because I'm in a closed session, but you will do this. You'll click on the add to Chrome or whatever browser you're using, and then you will be taken to, hold on one second there, I think I'm in the wrong spot, and so you'll then install that Chrome button or the browser button, and what that does is it gives you the ability to browse the web, and it will then allow you to source images from different places and apply those to your Pinterest boards. Okay, very, very handy tool, and I recommend that you install it to save time in the future. Okay, at this point, they set up your profile. They're going to send you an email confirmation for you to go ahead and confirm yourself on Pinterest. And at this point, you also want to go ahead and install the mobile applications, because most often than not, you're going to be taking photographs in your business. You know, many times people tell me, oh, I just don't have time to do these things. And really what it is that you're not taking the few moments to capture the moments that are happening in your business so that you can collect that information for later use in social media. So as things are happening in your business, you want to have Pinterest on your phone and potentially on the phones of other key members in your company, so that you're taking photographs of things, and now you can immediately get those at least in draft into Pinterest, and you can do that from the mobile devices. Okay, so here up at the top, you have home, you have people who are following you, obviously the search bar in Pinterest. And then you have this drop-down menu, which gives you access to your profile and any other profiles that you have here. You can see that I've created some test profiles before. Then there's the notifications icon for messages, and then the notifications icon for notifications regarding if people have repinned or liked a pin or commented on a pin, and so on and so forth. We're actually going to drop down on the 3 buttons icon, and you can see here that it says to get a free business account, you just click on Upgrade Now in order to do that. And we want to create a business account. And at this point, we would create a business. I'm just going to use our web hosting service as a dummy test, and we're going to go ahead and put that in there. So we put in the name of the company, your name of your business, and your business domain. Okay, at a little bit, we're going to show you how to that you need to verify that and why. And then you're going to pick a specific option. So you would pick the appropriate one here. You're given quite a number of drop-down options. Either a professional service provider, a public figure, you're a member of the media, you're a brand, retailer, you have a retail shop, an online marketplace, an online retailer, a local business, you have a physical store where people come into it, and then an institution or nonprofit, and then other. Okay, I suggest not using other unless you're really, really other, but you should be able to fit yourself into one of these categories. I'm going to click on online marketplace and click continue. All right, at this point, it's going to ask you a few questions about setting up your business profile. So it says, hey, do you want to add your website? And I say yes. So it's already pre-populated. And am I interested in advertising? Yes, I'm interested in advertising at some point, but I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to click I'm not sure yet. It doesn't matter. You can always turn it on later. All right, so this is your board when you get started and you now have a business profile. So a business profile is important because 1, you can't advertise with it. You can't publish ads. 2, you can't see some of the insights and some of the information related to it. And you also can't see some of the developer tools that are required of you for you to be able to create some other pins that I'll show you in just a few minutes. Okay, so here we are, and you can see now the profile is pretty blank, and so we want to be able to spiffy up the place, right? One of the things that we can see is that the hero image, the bar across the top of the page, is not yet there, and our profile image is not there, and we want those to be branded. You want those to be branded. So we're going to go ahead and do those things. So first, we're just going to go over and create our first board. You're going to create a board by just going to the board navigation button. I did that really fast, but so here you have boards, and then you click on boards, you click on create board, and then you're going to give it a board name. And we're just going to create a few board names. So we could just call this web hosting or something like that, right? And then, so now we have a board called web hosting, and we can add some ideas from other people's boards to it, or we can create our own board. In order to create a group board, you can see there's the little plus and the little head icon. That's how you would add someone to a board. So if I wanted to, I could go ahead and add myself. This is my personal account, and I could go ahead and add myself, and I've invited myself now to this board. Okay, so once I accepted that on my mobile phone or on my desktop, logged into that account, it would then add me as a group member, and I would now be able to post to this board as well. Okay, so you can see that it says I don't have any pins on this board yet, so we're going to go ahead and create a pin. You can add different sections to a board as well, so you can kind of create smaller themes or areas within a board if you need to. But we're going to go ahead in and add a pin, and we're going to add a pin from the desktop. And so let's choose our Pinterest background. So again, I've gone in and pre-created a pin, and I used a tool to create that, and I'll talk about that later. But just for purposes of the demonstration, you're going to have a pin. You're going to create your first pin, and we're going to give it a title. And this is how every pin is created, by the way, whether that's on your phone or otherwise. You're going to select an image or take an image. You're then going to give it a title, and in this case, we could just call it background because we don't really care about its SEO. You would want to create a search engine optimized title, just like you would write a Twitter tweet, just like you would write a blog post. You want to make sure the title and the description should be keyword rich, right? So it should be something that is going to, in essence, describe your business, describe what's going on, and give people an idea so that when they are searching, they can find you. You can also add links to things. You can add various links to things if you want to. So you can tag things in the image, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. And you can also choose your enter a website. Basically, where did this image come from? And so I can say this image came from our web hosting site, so who cares? All right, we're going to now choose a board. We only have one board to choose from, and we're going to select that board. Notice the save button is grayed out until you have the board selected. All right, at that point, we're going to click save, and voila, the board is now there. Now we can see the pin, and what we're going to do is now go back to our primary page. We're going to go back to our profile, and what we want now is to turn that first board pin into our background here. So we're going to click on the pencil icon in the top right hand corner. We're going to pick normally it's just whatever the latest pins are that you pinned, but we want to actually select this particular board because we want to have control over it. This is your choice, but I just rather have a little bit more control. And now voila, it's taken the pin that we've pinned and now displayed that as our hero image across the top, our profile image. Okay, and as you can see, it'll hop out to the board if we want it to, and that way people can see those images as well. Now our profile image is a little bit more interesting, so we're going to hop over to the settings to be able to see that. So we're going to click on the three buttons, the disclosure button, and we're going to click on settings. And that's going to take us into the settings area. And the settings area is just one long, these are all links down to the same page, right? So this is all just one long scrolling icon. Let's cover these really, really quickly so that you have an idea about what we're talking about here. Okay, so we have your email address. You can change your email address if you need to, change your password. And these are all the pieces that you completed when you, you came into it. Now here you may want to change this to your real name, right? And you can actually also change search privacy. You want this on, but for demo purposes, I'm actually going to turn this off because I don't want anybody indexing this particular site. You'll leave that on though. Here you can use personalization. You can turn on or off the various personalization options, not particularly an issue for me. And then down here we have the profile. This is really important. So you want the business name as it appears. You may actually want to put some keywords in that would be useful to you. So like I could put in affordable web hosting or something like that, right? Notice it says please enter no more than 30 characters. So in this particular case, I've already gone over the number of characters, so I really can't do that. But if your business name is really short, you can maybe put in a keyword or two there and be okay. This is where we're going to add our profile image. So we're going to go out and hop out and select a profile image. In this case, I'm just going to use our generic little image here for a profile image. Voila, we now have an image that's going to display on our profile that's going to represent your business. Down here, you have the Pinterest username. You want to be able to choose a username that is going to represent your business. So if your business is, W3 Consulting, then you want it to say W3 Consulting. If it's, ABC Shop, you're going to want it to say ABC Shop or something as close to that as possible. Down under About You, this is where you're going to put a description about the business again, and the business description is going to be keyword optimized. It should have all the various keywords about your products and services, your industry, and maybe some pieces about your authority or expertise. Do you have a specific type of certification? Do you have a unique selling proposition that no other businesses have in your area? and put that, okay? If you are a local business, you do want to make sure that you put in your location. So I'm just going to put in, this is actually the, the address to the government building in Arlington, Virginia. Do not do this, but I'm just putting it in there just so that you can see. And again, it says, oh, look, you have more than 50 characters, and so stop, right? So in this case, I'm just putting in an address to my retail location if I have it, and then that way it can geolocate you for that. You can feature boards as well on your profile, so those push those boards up to the top, and so you can do that. And then finally, we're going to talk about claims, notifications, and so you can actually claim your website, which allows for the analytics from your website to be given back and forth between Pinterest and your website effectively. So in this particular case, I would want to claim my website by clicking on claim. It's going to give me a little bit of metadata, and it's going to ask me to go ahead and claim that. Now, just very quickly, if you are on WordPress, WordPress has a plugin called Jetpack, and a lot of businesses use Jetpack. And so if you do, that is, you use WordPress and you use Jetpack, you can easily do that just by going into Jetpack, going to settings, clicking on the traffic tab, and then if you scroll down, you will now see a site verification area, and then this is where you're going to paste that bit of code that Pinterest gives to you. Okay, so you'll paste it in there, and then voila, you are now verified with Pinterest, and that way the data that you're sharing back and forth between your website and Pinterest can be tracked. So that's how you claim your website, and you definitely want to do that once you set up your account. If you do have an Etsy or YouTube account, doing the same thing applies. So if you have an Etsy shop and you're selling products on Etsy, you want to claim it. That way you can use your products back and forth and the data can be shared. And then the same thing with YouTube. Okay, so that's how that works. If see at the beginning, I did not log in with Google or Facebook. You can do that here so that you can log in effectively with just being logged into Facebook. You'll all be automatically logged in with Facebook and so on and so forth. And you can see some of your settings. And by now, if you've installed your application on your Android or iOS device, it will show here as an approved app that you're using. Okay, so those are the settings, and you should be set up with your business profile at that point. So if we click back to our view profile, and we're going to have to refresh here probably to see if the image now shows. Voila. So you can see here now we have the header and the profile image showing. Now I would have a description. If I wrote a description, it should be showing there. And now we have a link to our, oh no, or maybe it shows here. I don't know where it shows actually. Yeah, but the link to our website is here. Our image is here. Our name is here. That's a good, effective profile being set up. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know and we can answer those. But we'll move on from there now. Okay. I'll leave this here and all right, so what I'd like to do now is to talk about marketing strategy on Pinterest. There are some really important functions that you need to install in the business just generally related to social strategy, and I want to go over those with you. So now that you have a business profile, you need to figure out whether or not your audience is on Pinterest. And there are many, many statistics about Pinterest. I will be happy to put a link to all of the various statistics that I've found and the links to the various statistics in the webinar archive description, so you can find that there. But you want to probably dive in and look at the numbers to see whether or not your audience is there. In some way, shape, or form, what you likely should do is survey your current clients. That is, sending an email out, talking to several clients that fit the demographics that we talked about at the top of the show, and figuring out whether or not those people are on Pinterest, and then testing, right? So you might try Pinterest for 3 months and see what type of traction you get. And that will really determine how much energy you continue to give to Pinterest or not. Next up, is your website able to convert website visitors? Now, this has nothing to do with Pinterest in a way. What this has to do with is the fact that if you're a small business in today's modern marketplace, you need to be able to convert people who visit your website into customers. And that's a function of your website, not a function of the people who are visiting your website. So what is the sales strategy once people visit your website? Is it that you want to drive them to make a phone call? Is it that you want to give them something so that they give up information so that you can make contact with them? Is it that you want to give them something like a coupon or some kind of offer that drives them into your physical retail store? You need to figure out the sales strategy here that when leads and middle of the funnel buyers come to your site, you know how to turn them into actual buyers, into actual sales. Because otherwise, all of the work here in social media is for naught if you don't know how your website converts website visitors. And finally, are you able to capture the content needed to be successful on Pinterest? As I like to joke, Pinterest is a hungry, hungry hippo. Pinterest posting is something that you have to do a lot of. My understanding is that group boards and boards and group boards are most repinned and most engaged with when they have 30 pins per day. Okay, 30 pins per day, which means that you have to be churning out a lot of content and repurposing a lot of content if you want to be successful on Pinterest. Does that mean you need to start at 30 pins a day? Absolutely not. You start out at the level that you can start out, and then you grow over time. But just understand that top performing boards, and you want to have a top performing board in your area, you're going to have to post more often than on other social networks. Okay, so it does require quite a bit of content being posted. So you have to have pretty strong internal workflows so that people know how to capture and syndicate content to Pinterest seamlessly. In 2014, as Tracy noted at the top of the webinar, I published a book called Solomo Success, and in it I explain the concept of building community. And Pinterest is no different here in 2018 in terms of the three fundamental activities that you need to do in order to be effectively growing your community, a community being your target audience here. And they are founded on three fundamental human needs. Those are to give things, to get things, and to feel a sense of belonging. And we do that through these social activities by listening, that is, engaging with people and adding content to other people's places, right? Listening is searching and commenting and engaging with others on their properties. Speaking is publishing your own content, that is, producing your own pins. And then finally, connecting, which is the idea of collaborating with others, connecting others, and creating content with others. So you want to listen to industry and influencer boards. You want to be able to speak to your audience by telling your brand, product and service, and customer stories. So how are you going to be publishing these pins on various boards to be able to tell the various stories that need to be told? And finally, you want to connect, and you connect by establishing a marketing alliance. So for all of you that are out there, start looking to the left and the right of you visually in the room and figure out, is there someone that I could be working with that could also be helpful to my business in together having, say, a Pinterest group board where we're collaborating. So I create 10 pins, you create 10 pins, somebody else creates 10 pins, and so on and so forth. And now the burden of creating all these pins now is distributed among a marketing alliance. The success of being on Pinterest will ultimately lie in your ability to connect with others and to establish these types of relationships so that you're able to say that if you're in the health and wellness field, right, you would want to connect with a yoga instructor, say maybe someone who does Pilates, someone who is a fitness coach or trainer, someone who does Reiki, someone who's a dietitian or a registered nurse who does what do you call those things where people get replenished? They do fluids and so forth. Connect with all of those various people together, and that establishes a group of people who can contribute. You need to be able to trust those people. You need to not be promoting spammy content on the boards, but you can really do a lot with a marketing alliance. Okay, so listen, speak, and connect. Just a couple of really specific recommendations here. Make sure to review the metrics consistently. You do not want to just be posting, listening, speaking, and connecting and not be measuring. You want to make sure that you're measuring this stuff, and you claimed your profile, you connected to Google Analytics on your website. Well, go look at that stuff. Make sure that you're looking at Google Analytics and the other metrics to be able to make actionable business marketing decisions. So all the reviewing of the data in the world is just going to give you the pleasure metrics, right? Feeling good about how many likes you got on a pin. But ultimately what you want to do is you want to say, okay, these pins got a high amount of engagement. These pins did not. These pins drove traffic to our website. These did not. How do we do differently so that we get more of these pins that will drive traffic to our website, that will convert to buyers, that will get more engagement? And that's founded on having a consistency with your posting. So create an editorial calendar, whether that be for your business alone or with the marketing alliance that you're going to establish, so that you have a group of people together. You work on a collaborative calendar. You can create a Google Calendar. You can create an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet and share it with everybody. And that way everybody knows who's responsible for posting when and how. All of you, whether that be your individual business or everybody in the marketing alliance, you want to make sure that you add the save button on images on your own website. The reason for this is that if you add the save button, and again, this is found in the developer, if you go to developers.pinterest.com, you can find out how to add the save button to your images. In WordPress, it's a plugin. In other websites, you might have to put a little bit of code into the website. But the idea here is now every image on your website will now have a Pinterest icon. And then people could just click on the Pinterest icon, and now they are empowered to share your images onto Pinterest, and it links directly back to your website, the page from which the image was sourced. So this can drive a lot of traffic back to your website if you effectively put images on your website, or if you already have those images on your website, and now you're adding this functionality to the site. As I said at the top of the webinar as well, pinners are planners. That is that they spend 2 times as much time planning things as any other social network user. You need to identify along the customer journey where they're planning, and it's just based on your industry, right? So the wedding industry is probably the best example because there's a lot of that on Pinterest, but that's not all that's on Pinterest. But along the customer journey, right, you have a bride and groom who are selecting things that along the customer journey. What's the average time when they're doing those things? Well, you want to double that from the industry standard because that's what pinners do on Pinterest, and that's when you want to put out pins that will be focused on that audience during and along the customer journey. So you might have separate boards for each of the milestones for a particular type of thing if it's just you. But if it's a group board, then you make sure that the florist is posting at a particular time, and then the photographer and the videographer are posting at a particular time, all along the customer journey. And finally, in this section, you really need to think about the 3 fundamental components. Visuals, right? You have to have things that look effective to your audience, look appropriate to your audience. It not only has to be good design, but it has to be effective design. You need to think about the keywords because people are searching on Pinterest for things. And then hashtags. Hashtags are fairly new to Pinterest, but ultimately, like all the other places, if you create a branded hashtag or if you use hashtags effectively, that will help you be found faster and potentially by people who don't follow you already. I'm going to quickly jump out here to the Pinterest ads after I go over the Pinterest ad types, and then we will go into the tools. Okay, so Pinterest ad types. We have several different Pinterest ad types, and just want to go over them very, very quickly for you. We have the promoted pin. A promoted pin is actually identical to a pin. It is a pin that you have on a board, and all it is that you pay for it to be shown to more people. Okay, so a promoted pin, the only difference that you'll see in the interface is that it will say promoted underneath the pin. That's it. You'll just see the word promoted at the bottom of the pin as opposed to it not. A promoted video pin is a video pin, again, that you've promoted. It's just showing the video pin to more people than the ones who follow you. One tap pin is actually it just adds a different functionality flow. So typically when you click on a pin or a video pin, it's going to open that up into a larger view for you to be able to view the content or just view the content in a larger format. With a one-tap pin, you're actually paying for you to take that flow away, and it directly sends that person to the website of the URL that's in the pin. Okay, so if you wanted to take someone to a specific product page based on that, you could do that. A promoted app pin is in essence a pin that promotes an app. that you might have if you have a mobile application. Cinematic pins are unique types of pins. In essence, what you're doing is as you're scrolling up and down Pinterest as a pinner, you see something moving, and that is the kind of trailer or the a couple of the screenshots from that particular video. When you only when you're scrolling up and down. So it's movement when all of the other pins are actually static. The video, the images are all static except for the cinematic pin because it's kind of showing you a little bit of a trailer. When you click on that pin, then it opens up and you can actually play the full video. All right, then we have two additional types of ads, and they fit into the rich pins. Rich pins are basically a way for you to be able to create specific actions with regard to those things. And so rich pins are not necessarily ads, but I'm putting it here, but it's not actually an ad. It's just the way in which you set the data in there. And again, if you go to developers.pinterest.com, you can create these rich pins. But anyway, so you have apps, you have articles, products, and recipes, and that's because they have a very specific type of schema that you want to apply there. Articles are going to have authors, they're going to have the date you publish those things. A product is going to have potentially the various aspects of that product displayed, and a recipe is going to give you an option for what are the various ingredients, how much time, what's the yield, what are the instructions for the recipe, right? It's a structured type of data, and so rich pins give you that that ability, and then you can promote those rich pins. And then next up are buyable pins. Buyable pins give you the ability to, within Pinterest, sell your products directly to pinners. That is, the entire sales process happens within Pinterest. Okay. Now, currently, it's only supported by the platforms BigCommerce, Salesforce Commercial Cloud, and Shopify. Okay. With Etsy, I think they partnered with Etsy so that they're directing people from you to Etsy to buy in the Etsy app. But I think right now with buyable pins, those things are directly connected to those. I'm not sure what the income structure is. The last time I saw anything about it, they were saying that the buyable pins, as long as you had the retail partner of choice, in this case these three, you weren't getting charged, but I think you probably are now. So I'm not sure about that, but you might want to do some research. But buyable pins are obviously a way to, if your website doesn't know how to convert and you are selling digital products or products through your Shopify, physical products through your Shopify or BigCommerce site, that's a really great way to reduce the number of clicks by just giving people the ability to buy directly from within the Pinterest application. Okay, so very quickly, I wanted to go over the Pinterest ads manager and how you actually create an ad. So once you have a business profile, right, you have to have a business profile, you'll be taken into the system. And this is here on the Pinterest website. And what it does is to create a new ad, you're going to go to ads.pinterest.com. You'll click ads, create ad. You'll then be given a choice to choose a goal. Okay, and the campaign goal fits into usually 5 different categories. That is, get traffic to your website, build brand awareness, boost engagement with your pins, increase installs for your app, and then build brand awareness through video. Okay, so you'll choose one of those campaign goals, and then you'll be asked to name your campaign and name your placement. That is, whether it's going to be within browsing, basically as people are browsing their various pins in their feed, or whether you want that to be shown in search, in Pinterest search. Next up, you're going to choose an ad group, and you're going to create an ad group. An ad group is just, in essence, a way to group together different types of promoted pins. Okay, so you'll go ahead and group those into those bundles. They can almost be the same as your boards. I kind of think they should be, but it depends on what the campaign is. But it controls your budget, how long you want it to run, and who you're actually going to be targeting. And at that point, you're going to choose your targeting. And targeting is giving you quite a bit of power to be able to see who's in your audience that you want this ad, this promoted pin, or other types of ads to show. Keywords, what types of things people are searching that you want people to show those ads for, that you want Pinterest to show those ads to. Interests, what types of interests those people have, from those that modal, that that came up and asked you what the types of interests you wanted to select, and they make you choose 5 at least, well, it's coming from that data. People are pre-selecting when they start Pinterest what their interests are. Then you can choose demographics and then placement. Again, whether you want ads to show in search or in just the discovery area where people are browsing. You can set budget and schedule. At this point, that is what's the maximum budget you want for this particular thing to show, and all of that other fun stuff. And then last but not least, you schedule the actual pin that you want to be shown. Okay, so you'll show whether that's a video pin, a visual pin, and at that point you then choose the destination URL for the pin that you want it to be tracking, and voila, it goes ahead and gets reviewed by the Pinterest ads team, and then it's off to the races. Okay, so that's really how the advertising process works. If you have, again, the ad budget to be able to do that, you can go ahead and do that. In these last minutes, I want to, because I want to give us some time for question and answer, I'm going to go through some of the different tools that you can use for purposes of taking, kind of using your time best as it relates to Pinterest. And so the first one is, again, because I deal with a lot of business owners who have WordPress, and the presumption is that most of you are on WordPress, but I can't guess that. But if you're not on WordPress, you let me know, and I probably have other tools I can share with you. Again, just email me once I share my final slide. But anyway, so let's go into here so you can see more of this. And so this first tool is called Tasty Pins. And so WP Tasty is a plugin that you install into your WordPress installation, and it allows you to do a whole host of really cool things as it relates to SEO with Pinterest. So first, you can set pin descriptions for your images. So as you're creating content on your website, instead of having to deal with all of Pinterest at a later time, you can actually set the pin description. That is, you can include your hashtags, your keywords, and any other information that you want to optimize for Pinterest search directly within the images you're uploading to WordPress. Now, this ends up being a fundamental pillar of my own, a tenet of the pillars that I talk about when it comes to search engine optimization for websites in general. You should always be putting all of your images on your website first, and then syndicating those out to other social networks or wherever else you're going to put them. Because ultimately, you want to drive traffic through Google image search as much as you want to drive traffic from any other type of Google search. So by putting them on your website first and then putting them out to Pinterest, you're giving yourself a double bonus. Okay, you can optimize the alt text for SEO purposes within WP Tasty. And you can hide your Pinterest specific images. So some of the Pinterest experts out there talk about the idea that they'll put their Pinterest pins embedded on their website, or they'll put the Pinterest images, and because they have the save button implemented on their website, people can click on the Pinterest button and save it to Pinterest. But some people want a different image to display on their website, but when people click on the Pinterest button, then they will get a different image that will be posted to Pinterest if you want to actually put a different image on Pinterest. Say the sizing of your website is for images that are landscape, but of course Pinterest should be square or portrait and long. You might need that, and so you can create a different image and do that. You can disable pinning of certain images. So maybe you have some IP stuff on your website. You don't want people to pin those images on Pinterest. You can do that with WP Tasty. And last but not least, it adds the Pinterest hover button, so the save button, onto all of your images. So if you do not have the skills to add it the other way through developers.pinterest.com, you could just use WP Tasty because it'll install it for you. Okay, next up is Hootsuite. So I couldn't talk about tools without talking about Hootsuite. I'm, in full disclosure, a Hootsuite Global Brand Ambassador, so I volunteer time to talk about Hootsuite, the social media dashboard. And so Hootsuite has added functionality to schedule pins to Pinterest from the Hootsuite dashboard. So underneath the new beta composer, you just drop down arrow and you're taken to this screen where you can then choose a board. In this case, these are my personal boards, but whatever. But here goes my Web and Beyond board. And so I've chosen my Web and Beyond board. I can select a file to be uploaded. So if I go to my desktop again, here I can create you know, a pin here, and it will then go ahead and upload that pin to the scheduler. I can add a URL. Again, I'm just going to put that for the sake of it. I can put a description. Again, this is going to be a keyword-rich description for this pin, and then I can go ahead and schedule it. Okay, so I can go ahead and schedule this pin for whenever I want it to go out and click schedule. All right, so this gives you the ability to take a whole bunch of pins and schedule them all at once. So you can really save time directly right here within the Hootsuite dashboard. And so they're right about the comparable cost between this and the next tool. So because with Hootsuite, once you're a Hootsuite Pro member, I think it's about $120 at the time of this recording per year. So for $120, the next tool I think is about $100 to $150 per year. You get the ability to schedule across all of your social networks with one tool as opposed to the next tool. But some people only want to work in Pinterest, and if that's the case, then I'm going to show you another tool that you can use. Okay, so this tool, let's see, why is this not? There we go. So this tool is called Tailwind, and Tailwind is very popular among Pinterest users, but it works for Pinterest and Instagram. And this allows you to schedule posts and really use it as a social media dashboard also. It just happens to be limited to Pinterest and Instagram. Okay, so you can use Tailwind for that. Now, Tailwind has a sub-product called Tailwind Tribes, and Tailwind Tribes is a way for you to be able to work with groups. So it allows you to be able to discover people who are alliances. So I talked about the idea of having marketing alliances. Well, you can create alliances here in the system, and you can then work to produce more content with others and do that. So if you need help finding others with whom to reach out to your audience, plus expanding your audience, Tailwind Tribes. Then there's a free tool called PinGroupie, and PinGroupie allows you to find group boards. So as I said earlier, group boards look no different than any other boards on Pinterest, except for the fact that you are collaborating with others. So this technology allows people to publish boards, and then you can see what boards you can join and collaborate with others for that. So you can submit a board for yourself if you want to submit a board to people, and you can get together with other people, and it's free. So you can collaborate with others using PinGroupie. All right, this is a tool called Board Booster, and Board Booster takes the top group boards on Pinterest and categorizes them according to Pinterest's categories, and you can find group boards using this tool. So Board Booster. Next up is the creation of pins. So, and this is for visual pins, not for video pins. That's a whole nother category of pins that we can talk about another day. But this is Canva. I know I've talked about Canva before, but Canva is a fantastic tool for being able to create great pins that are not only beautiful from using good images, but also design competent. That is, they're laid out properly so that you don't have, poor color contrast and, and all of those kinds of things. So Canva is free to use. The only thing that you pay for are the stock images that are available in the system. So it's free to use. Sign up for an account, and it actually creates a different sized pin than the pixel sizes I gave you. It's fine. It's still the right ratio. It just is a bit bigger of a post size. It really makes no difference to the interface, but that's the size they chose. Okay, so Canva. Canva's competitor is a tool called Easel that I've started playing with recently. And we use Canva in the office, so we're not probably leaving Canva anytime soon. But Easel is actually a really nice tool. It allows you to be able to create the same kinds of things, and it helps you, create different types of social media sizes. So if you have a template in Easel, you can easily turn it into a tweet size, a Twitter tweet size, a Facebook post size, and so on and so forth. This functionality is also inside of Canva, but it's a paid tool called Magic Resize. In Easel, in the free account, I think they give this to you for free, which is pretty phenomenal. So there are different levels of pricing for this, but there is a free account that you can sign up and try and check it out. So if Canva's not working for you, maybe Easel will. Next up is a tool called PinFollow, and PinFollow is to help you as you get started. So when you get started, you don't have followers, and maybe you send out an email to your current list of your audience, your email list, and you let them know you're on Pinterest now and you'd like to engage with them. Well, you can also sign up for PinFollow, and that tells you who you're following, or you can follow people who are in particular categories, and then if they follow you back, you stay connected. If they don't follow you back, then you can unfollow them, and you keep doing that over and over and over again until you build up a cadre, a group of people who are interested pinners, people who are repinning your content, who are engaging with your content, commenting and liking your content. So pinfollow.net. And then last but not least is on YouTube. There is a channel specifically created by the Pinterest folks called Pinterest Business. So it's the Pinterest Business channel. So if you actually, like I did right here, if you go onto YouTube and search within quotation marks Pinterest Business Webinars, you will find this playlist. And as of right now, they have 24 videos, and they cover a whole wide variety of topics. Holiday stuff, holiday strategies. They have Pinterest for small and medium-sized businesses, which we already talked about today, but they talk about content, how to engage with millennials and parents, and they have a whole series of things on ads and optimizing for ads and all kinds of other fun stuff. So if you want to go kind of deeper into all of this, you can with the Pinterest Business Webinars series on YouTube. Okay, so a couple of resources that you might just want to check out is if you are thinking about ads, go to ads.pinterest.com, and you can then, of course, check out that. If you go to business.pinterest.com, that's where you can find out more about buyable pins. You can find out about rich pins, and you'll also find a link at the bottom of that page to the developer's side if you want to implement the save button and so on and so forth. As I said before, you can find the Pinterest Business Webinars there on YouTube, and it has a whole host of really good information available. So at this point, we are just at time. And so, Tracy, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. And I put up my email address here. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me after the webinar. Tracy?
Yeah, Ray, we do have one. Somebody had to drop out for a couple of minutes and wanted to know how to set up a business account on Pinterest.
Right. So right at the top of the webinar, we'll archive this and you'll be able to watch this again, but you're actually just going to go on, and when you create your account at the start, click on the disclosure 3 dots icon in the top right hand corner of Pinterest, and it will give you an option to upgrade your account to a business account. Then you'll follow the instructions.
Okay. Well, Ray, we don't have any other questions, so if people are thinking about things and want to go ahead and type those into the question window, that's great. I'm going to go ahead and close out the webinar, and then we'll check back and see if there are any additional questions. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. I know we had trouble a couple of weeks ago with the webinar, so I'm glad that you were able to come back and listen with us today. Today's webinar was recorded and will be posted on the Virginia SBDC website under live webinars and recordings. Tomorrow you'll be receiving a follow-up email on the webinar, and there'll be an evaluation link in that email. Please help us to continue to improve our training by taking the time to complete the evaluation. If you'd like to complete the evaluation now, I did just put it in the chat window. Our next webinar will be on October 18th, which is next week, and it's Google Analytics 101 for small businesses. And Ray, it does not look like we have any